Good morning. We are here in my herb garden, as you can see this morning. I am trying to be a little bit more proactive this year and get on preserving some of these herbs ahead of time. And spring is really the best time to harvest and use or preserve herbs because that's when they are just kind of brand new and tender. None of them have really flowered or gone to seed or anything yet or dried out. So all of these herbs are looking really beautiful right now. And what I usually do is, honestly, I'll harvest them as I need them to use them fresh, but I usually wait till the end of the growing season to preserve a lot of them. And then first off, they are just not as nice by them. They're a little bit woodier. They're a little bit kind of dried out. A lot of them have flowered. They're still perfectly usable, but they're really, really nice in the spring. But I usually wait till the end of the season, and then I've got all these herbs and I've got all these vegetables and everything needs to be preserved at once, and I want to pull my hair out. So I am trying to be a little bit more proactive this year and actually harvesting and preserving things as they come on. And herbs are really the first things to come on in our garden. So I'm out in the herb garden this morning, harvesting what I can, and then I'm going to be taking everything inside to preserve. So I've got a few different ways that I actually like to preserve herbs, and I'm going to be showing you how I do that with some of the herbs that we're growing here in just a minute. But right now I've got to just kind of finish harvesting everything. So I'm going at the oregano plant right now. So oregano is in the mint family. So technically a lot of the advice is not to just grow it in the ground or amongst your other herbs because it will take over, as it has. Mint, anything in the mint family will spread. So oregano, lemon balm is another one. That will spread if you don't kind of keep it under control. So I've already cut this back because it was kind of encroaching on my lavender plant here. So I've already taken a big chunk of the oregano out, and it has still come back and just spread like wildfire. So I'm trying to kind of just cut this back now and just stay on top of it so it doesn't smother out any of my other herbs. However, I do like having it in the herb garden like this too, because then I do get a good harvest off of it. Whereas I find when I grow those types of things in pots, they need to be repotted or divided almost yearly. Otherwise, they kind of get root bound because they like to spread. So I'm doing my oregano first, and then I've got like our parsley's looking really nice here. Chives are always best in the spring when they're nice and fresh. They are just starting with the little chive blossoms now, so I like to get them harvested before the chive blossoms as much as possible, because that's when those chive blossom stems will be a little bit woodier. So I'm going to be doing the chives, the parsley, the oregano, and then I'm going to stay on top with the lemon balm because it is also in the mint family. And then I'm going to take them inside and show you how I preserve all of these different types of herbs. But just a tip before I do that and before I finish up here, that if you are harvesting herbs, no matter when you're doing it, whether it's in the spring or the summer or near the end of the season, the best time to harvest them is in the morning. So that is when the concentration of essential oils is the highest in the leaves or the flowers if you're harvessing lavender or whatever. So in the herbs, whatever you're harvesting, the earlier you can get to them in the morning before the sun has kind of come out and everything, the better. You're going to get a higher concentration of those oils in the plants, and that's where we get all of those fantastic flavors, but also the medicinal properties that are in them. So I'm just going to finish up with these, and then we'll head inside and get preserving. Okay, so I've got all of my fresh herbs ready to go here, but before I actually start using them and preserving them and hanging them and drying them and all those things, I want to make sure that I get any dirt or little bugs or anything like that off of them. So the first thing I need to do is wash them. we've got all of our herbs washed and mostly dried anyway. Had them laying out on just some paper towels, or I've got some towels going behind me with the oregano on top, just to absorb any extra moisture. And I've let them sit for about 20 minutes or half an hour or so, just to give it some time for some of that moisture to drip off. But I want to try to, just gonna dab off as much as possible before I get started. So once again, I'm just gonna take another towel and just kind of dab these. I want to try not to press too hard. You want to try to avoid bruising the herbs. What we're going to be doing to start is we are going to be drying these herbs. So with oregano, that is the way that I like to preserve it. I've got some twine here, and then I've got a bar above me that we've just hung on the ceiling because we happen to have a couple of hooks up there. And so we actually use this bar. We can adjust the height of it, and we use it for drying pasta sometimes, and then we will use it also to tie some of our herbs up on there. So I'm going to go ahead and tie them up. I am going to use some elastic bands to secure them, and then I'll just wrap them in twine to tie them up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bundles of oregano off of our one relatively small plant. So the last thing that I need to do is hang them all up. So the next thing that we are going to be doing is I am actually going to be working with all of these chives. What I'm going to be making today is a garlic and chive butter, because who doesn't like garlic and chives in butter, right? To spread on bread or biscuits or whatever you like. Potatoes, they're really good on as well. So I am going to use, I've got about 1.5 cups of butter that I got at room temperature. So you really do want to start with room temperature butter because it's going to make it so much easier to work with. Okay, so this is definitely a lot of chives. So I'm just gonna make a really herby butter. And if I find that it is too herby, then I can always add more butter later. So what you wanna do now is just add all of your herbs, oh, so many chives, to a mixing bowl or any type of bowl or container. And now I'm just gonna add in my softened room temperature butter. I'm gonna just cut this into a few pieces just to help it. Oh, that's nice and soft though. Break down a little bit more. Make it easier to mix. I'm just gonna pop those right in. It's so nice to have then homemade garlic or herb butter on hand whenever you need it. All right, so from here I just like to take like a fork or something. A potato masher also can work. Actually, there's so much of it in here. I might use that. We'll see how it goes with a fork. Anyway, and you just want to really mash it all together. Pretty simple. If you're using unsalted butter, you might want to add a pinch of salt. Another thing that you can do that helps to speed up the process is, as long as your hands are clean, which they should be anyway, just go ahead and use your hands. Mash it all together. And there you have it. So what I'm going to do with this now, I'm going to tidy up quickly. I'm just going to put this back in here. If you're going to use all your butter right away, you can either just go ahead and use it or stick it in the fridge for, I wouldn't leave it in the fridge for more than a few days. Because we are using fresh herbs, there is still moisture in them. Your butter should last, I would say, up to about a week, but it can then start to go moldy because of the moisture in the herbs. However, when we put it in the freezer, we don't have that problem and it'll last. I have stuff in there that is 2 years old. Okay, so I have stopped on this lovely still frame of myself to let you know that technically this compound butter is only good in the freezer for up to about 6 months. But personally, I have used it after a lot longer than that. I'm gonna go ahead and wash up and tidy up a little bit, and then I will show you how I pack it for the freezer. Okay, so in order to pack this up for the freezer, what I do is I actually just take a little bit of cling wrap, plastic wrap. Just never rips off nicely, ever. There we go, okay, there's one. Cut that right down the middle there. Half of it, right in the middle. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and roll that up. Okay, and then I'm gonna just kind of take the ends and I'm just gonna twist, and that's gonna just tighten that a little bit and form it into a nice little log. And there you go, and then it is ready to freeze. So these can go in the freezer now. They are going to last a very long time. Okay, so on to the next. So speaking of freezing herbs, that is what I'm gonna be doing next. I'm gonna chop up the rest of these chives, and what I like to do is I like to just toss them in the freezer. Freezing herbs just as they are works like a charm, and that is pretty much as close to fresh herbs as you're gonna get then all year round. So there you go, got some chives for the freezer. So I'm gonna do the same thing with the parsley. Most of the way through my herbs. I've just got some mint, lemon balm, and rosemary left. So the next one I'm going to tackle is the rosemary. So what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to be making some rosemary salt. I want to make sure that I'm taking off all of the nice, lush, new green needles off of the rosemary. And then I'm going to combine it with some sea salt. I use a coarse sea salt. You can use fine, doesn't really matter. And then you can actually just leave it in the salt like that, like whole needles, or you can blend it up, which is what I actually like to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that process right now. Okay, so I've got my rosemary all ready to go, and then I've got some coarse sea salt. So what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna blend it, I've just got like a little mini food processor. So I'm just going to pop all of my herbs in there. This is another one of those recipes where there's no exact measurements. It's kind of to your taste. Okay, yeah, that is looking really nice now. So it's all really nicely blended together. A few larger kind of chunks of the salt, but nice and blended. That rosemary is all broken down and you can smell it. Oh my, can you smell it? The color of that. Okay, so there you have it. I've got my rosemary salt all ready to just basically lay out and dry. So I'm just gonna pop it in my pantry / laundry room, and I'm just gonna let it kind of sit out on the shelf for, I don't know, a couple days, 2, 3, maybe 4 days, maybe up to a week because I forget about it. Either way, I'm just gonna make sure that it is nice and dry, and then what'll happen is because the salt will absorb some of that moisture from the herbs, it'll kind of stick together and be kind of clumpy. So once it's all dry, I just throw it back in my food processor, give it a blend again, and then I just store it in a mason jar. Okay, so the last things we have to preserve are the mint and the lemon balm. So what I've decided I'm going to do with each of these is I'm gonna make some sugar. So I'm gonna do a mint sugar, and then I'm gonna do a lemon balm simple syrup. So the simple syrup does need to be stored in the fridge, and it won't last more than a month, so it's not really a good long-term preservation method. I like to add mine to like soda water or cocktails, and it gives a bit of a sweet, lemony, citrusy flavor to them, or add it to like iced tea, homemade iced tea and stuff like that. And then with the mint sugar, you can use it as a little bit of a garnish. I like to have it on top of like a fruit salad, especially with watermelon. I find watermelon and mint goes together really nicely. Or you can use it for baking if you want to add a little bit of a mint flavor. Or I like to use it to rim my cocktail glasses. So especially for something like a mojito, right, which is made with sugar and mint, I like to actually use the mint sugar to line the rim of the glass. Okay, so I think I'm actually gonna start on the simple syrup first, since it's gonna need a little bit of time to cook down, and then I can make the mint sugar while I'm doing that. So just grab a measuring cup, and then I'm going to just pull off the lemon balm leaves. And it doesn't matter if I get stem in there too, but I want to just kind of grab the leaves off, stick them in there, and then I'm gonna add however much I get. Say I get 2 cups of loosely packed leaves, then I will add 2 cups of sugar and 2 cups of water to make this simple syrup. Okay, so I've got about a cup of packed lemon balm leaves. So I'm gonna throw those in my little saucepan. And then I'm going to also add in 1 cup of sugar and then 1 cup of water. And I'm gonna bring that all to a boil. Okay, so my simple syrup is off the heat now. I boiled it for 1 minute, and then I'm just gonna let it stand here. So I've just got the timer set for half an hour, and then last thing to do is make our mint sugar. So I've got my mint sugar all done. So I'm just gonna do the exact same thing with this as I did with the salt, and I'm just going to line a baking tray with some parchment paper and then lay it all out and let that dry. Okay, so our mint sugar is all done. I'm just gonna let it dry, and I'll move it to the shelves in the other room. In the meantime, I'm just gonna tidy up while I wait for the time on the clock to be up. And then I can strain out my lemon balm and bottle my simple syrup. I'm just gonna use a canning funnel, and I've just got this little mini colander. And you can use a regular size colander and a regular funnel, whatever you've got. Cheesecloth even, whatever you have. And I'm just gonna go ahead and strain that through. I'm just gonna kind of squeeze out as much as I can. There we go. Now I've got my lemon balm simple syrup. My mint sugar is drying. All of my oregano is hung to dry. My parsley and chives are in the freezer. And my rosemary has been turned into rosemary salt. So the only thing left to do is have a drink. So there you have it, a mint and lemon balm mojito. And it is delish. Don't worry, filming takes a long time, so we are already well into the afternoon. It is perfectly fine to be having a mojito right now. Thank you so much for joining me in the kitchen and in the garden today. I will have a full blog post to accompany this video in case you want to refer back to it. I will link that down below. And remember, if you like this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe below so you never miss an update from the house and homestead. Cheers.